Mortal Kombat has been hiding some of gaming's most impossible contradictions in plain sight for 30 years. Every timeline reset, every character resurrection, every retconned backstory points to something deeply broken about how NetherRealm handles continuity. That's why today, I'm breaking down Mortal Kombat's biggest mysteries and what they reveal about the franchise's lore. Starting with the character assassination that rewrote 25 years of canon. The Sindel retcon. Sindel's backstory was solid for 25 years. And then, Mortal Kombat 11. Aftermath deleted her entire character arc without explanation. The original timeline established Sindel as a tragic queen. Mortal Kombat 3 in 1995 introduced her as Edenia's ruler who committed suicide to prevent Shao Kahn from merging Earthrealm. Her MK3 ending explicitly states the spell bewitching Queen Sindel had been broken, confirming she was under mind control. Mortal Kombat Deception in 2004 showed her cooperating with Jade to rescue Kitana from Onaga. Her Armageddon ending had her use mystical power to revive King Jared, her murdered husband. 25 years of consistent characterization. Noble queen, tragic sacrifice, protective mother. But then MK11 Aftermath completely reversed everything. Sindel reveals she was never brainwashed. She claims she killed King Jared herself to consecrate her bond with Shao Kahn. She wanted to conquer realms alongside him all along. The game presents this as her true nature finally revealed, not as an alternate timeline difference. NetherRealm treated 25 years of established lore like it never existed. Here's what makes this mathematically impossible. Raiden's time-traveling message in MK9 only went back approximately 20 years to the first Mortal Kombat tournament in 1992. Sindel's marriage to Jared and alliance with Shao Kahn happened over 10,000 years before that. Her ancient backstory exists thousands of years before Raiden's message could have changed anything. The timeline reset should not have affected her history at all. The contradictions multiply when you examine the actual dialogue. Mortal Kombat 9 has Quan Chi explicitly promised Shao Kahn that resurrected Sindel will be much more cooperative, directly implying she wasn't cooperative before death. If she willingly served Shao Kahn in life, why would resurrection make her more cooperative? Why would Quan Chi need to promise behavioral changes for someone already loyal? Even worse, 4 different characters claim credit for Jared's death in MK11. Kitana says Shao Kahn murdered him. Shao Kahn admits to killing him. D'Vorah brags she executed him for Kahn, and Sindel claims she did it herself. The game can't even keep its own retcon consistent within the same story mode. The protective ward makes 0 sense under the retcon. Original lore stated Sindel's suicide created a magical barrier preventing Shao Kahn from invading Earthrealm. But if Sindel loved Shao Kahn and wanted to help him conquer realms, why would her death create protection against him? Why would a willing ally sacrifice herself to stop the man she supposedly adored? NetherRealm never explained this impossibility. But if one character's backstory getting deleted seems bad, wait until you learn about the artifact whose powers changed so drastically it became a completely different object between games. The Kamidogu. The Kamidogu are ancient artifacts created by the Elder Gods, and after 11 years of contradictory appearances, the franchise can't decide if they're mystical icons, corrupted daggers, or both simultaneously. Mortal Kombat Deception in 2004 introduced the Kamidogu as 6 symbol-shaped relics representing the major realms: Earthrealm, Netherrealm, Chaos Realm, Outworld, Order Realm, and Edenia. Each Kamidogu contained a fragment of the One Being's shattered essence. The Elder Gods created them to split the One Being into separate realms after defeating it at the dawn of time. Shujinko spent decades collecting all 6 during Conquest mode so Onaga could merge the realms back together. Their purpose was clear. Their appearance was consistent. They were glowing emblems with realm-specific symbols carved into stone. But then, the Mortal Kombat X comic series completely redesigned them as daggers. Not upgraded versions of the same artifacts. Completely different objects. The 2015 comic replaced symbol-shaped icons with blade weapons used for blood magic, a power system that didn't exist in the original timeline. The daggers enable possession through blood rituals and amplify the wielder's abilities by consuming souls. These aren't different applications of the same power. These are entirely separate artifacts that happen to share a name. Comic writer Sean Kittleson confirmed this on Twitter. He explicitly stated the MKX daggers are very, very different from the Deception icons. Not the same artifacts at all. NetherRealm didn't retcon the Kamadogu's appearance or powers. They created new objects and called them by the same name without acknowledging the original versions ever existed. The lore justification makes it worse. MKX claims the daggers tasted the blood of the one being during its destruction, linking them to blood magic through that exposure. But Deception never mentioned blood or consumption. The original Kamadogu were created after the one being was shattered, not during its defeat. They were tools of separation, not weapons of destruction. The entire origin story changed to accommodate the new design. Here's what breaks everything. Mortal Kombat 11's crypt includes both versions as tradable items. You can find the corrupted dagger versions and the original icon versions, now called gems, like Earthrealm Emerald and Netherrealm Ruby. The game treats them as separate artifact types existing simultaneously in the same timeline. Then Mortal Kombat 1 Chaos Reigns shows them as gems again, a third distinct form with different properties than either previous version. The 7th Kamadogu creates another impossibility. The Amulet of Shinnok is called a Kamadogu in Quan Chi's Armageddon ending, with Argus explicitly identifying it as the 7th piece needed to complete the set. But Shinnok created his amulet personally in Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero in 1997 to evade Elder God detection. How can Shinnok create an artifact that the Elder Gods supposedly made at the dawn of time? The amulet predates Shinnok's rebellion by eons if it's truly a Kamadogu. NetherRealm never reconciled these versions. They exist in different games with contradictory origins, appearances, and powers, all called Kamadogu without explanation. But at least the Kamadogu's confusion spans multiple games and timelines, unlike the plot device whose rules changed halfway through the same game without anyone noticing. The Hourglass. Kronika's Hourglass operates on clear rules throughout Mortal Kombat 11, and then 5 weeks later, the same game contradicted those rules without acknowledging the original version ever existed. Mortal Kombat 11's base game launched in April 2019 with story mode and 37 arcade ladder endings. Every single character who took control of the Hourglass reshaped reality according to their desires. Liu Kang created a timeline where Raiden never became dark. Kitana merged all realms into peaceful coexistence. Cassie Cage prevented her parents from ever meeting. Frost created an army of Cyber Lin Kuei. 37 different fighters used the Hourglass to rewrite history. None of them wore any crown. None of them mentioned needing additional artifacts. The Hourglass worked perfectly fine on its own, but then Aftermath DLC dropped in May 2020 with a critical revelation. The Crown of Souls is required to use the Hourglass safely. Without wearing the crown, anyone who manipulates time destroys all realms in the process. Shang Tsung explicitly states this. Fire, God Liu Kang confirms it. The entire Aftermath plot revolves around retrieving the crown so Liu Kang can properly restart history. Suddenly, the Hourglass became a doomsday device instead of a reality-shaping tool. This creates an impossible problem. If the crown is required and using the Hourglass without it destroys everything, then every single arcade ending from the base game depicts the annihilation of all existence. Liu Kang's peaceful timeline destroyed all realms, Kitana's merged reality, universal extinction, Cassie preventing her birth, complete obliteration. 37 different apocalypses that the game presented as happy endings. NetherRealm added 3 new characters in the Aftermath update, Fujin, Shiva, and Robocop. All 3 received arcade endings where they used the Hourglass to reshape reality. None of them wear the Crown of Souls. These characters were created after the crown requirement was established in Aftermath story mode, yet their endings ignore that rule completely. The Mortal Kombat wiki explicitly documents this contradiction, noting these Aftermath-era fighters don't wear the crown when using the Hourglass. Here's what makes this unforgivable. This isn't a contradiction between different games separated by years of development. This isn't an old timeline versus new timeline conflict. This is the same game contradicting itself within the same content update released simultaneously. The story mode establishes the crown as mandatory. The arcade endings for characters in that exact DLC ignore the crown entirely. The implications are staggering. Either the base game's 37 endings depict mass extinction events, or Aftermath's crown requirement is completely false. NetherRealm never addressed this. They released contradictory lore in the same package and pretended both versions were equally valid. But if rules changing within a single game seems impossible, wait until you learn about the prophecy that was supposed to save everyone but created every tragedy instead. The prophecy. Raiden sent a message to his past self to prevent Armageddon. and that message directly caused almost every death in Mortal Kombat 9's story mode. The setup seemed brilliant. Future Raiden from the original timeline watches everyone die at Armageddon in 2006. In his final moments, he sends his past self a vision with 3 words: he must win. The message travels back to 1992, right before the first Mortal Kombat tournament. Past Raiden receives fragmented visions showing catastrophic futures. He sees his amulet cracking with each wrong decision. The game presents this as Raiden's chance to fix everything by interpreting the prophecy correctly. But then, Raiden interpreted it wrong, every single time. Past Raiden first assumes Liu Kang must win against Shang Tsung in the tournament. Liu Kang wins. The amulet cracks anyway, so Raiden tries a different champion. He substitutes Kung Lao to fight Kentaro in Outworld, believing Kung Lao is the chosen one. Kung Lao defeats Kentaro successfully. Then Shao Kahn walks up behind him and snaps his neck in Chapter 12. The amulet cracks even worse. The actual meaning only becomes clear in Chapter 16 after Sindel's massacre kills most of Earthrealm's champions. Shao Kahn must win by attempting realm merger without properly winning Mortal Kombat, which triggers the Elder God's intervention. That was the solution all along. Let the villain break the rules so cosmic forces destroy him. But Raiden's constant misinterpretations led directly to Kung Lao's brutal death, Johnny Cage nearly dying, and the entire Earthrealm team being compromised. Here's what the community documented. Raiden earned the nickname God of Blunder, specifically because of this storyline. Players spent years debating why future Raiden would send such a cryptically useless message. One forum post summarized it perfectly. Going back to the past to say he must win with no context to your past self has to be one of the dumbest things that ever happened. Future Raiden had infinite words he could have sent. He chose the 3 least helpful ones possible. The message itself becomes a paradox when you consider Mortal Kombat 11's revelations. Kronika explicitly states she manipulated events across every timeline to ensure Raiden and Liu Kang become enemies. The prophecy was part of her manipulation. Raiden sending the message, misinterpreting it, and accidentally killing Liu Kang in Chapter 16 when Liu attacks him in grief-fueled rage happens in every timeline according to Kronika. This means the prophecy didn't prevent tragedy. The prophecy caused it. The act of trying to change the future created the exact outcome Kronika wanted. Raiden's attempt to save everyone played directly into the Keeper of Time's plan. Future Raiden unknowingly doomed his past self by sending a message that guaranteed Liu Kang's death. NetherRealm never addressed whether future Raiden knew about Kronika's manipulation. If he did, sending the message was betrayal. If he didn't, he fell for a trap that spanned multiple timelines. Either way, the prophecy that was supposed to fix everything broke it worse. But at least Raiden was trying to help, even if he failed catastrophically. Unlike the resurrection rules that saved some fighters while abandoning others for no explained reason. The Revenants. NetherRealm established rules for restoring fighters from Revenant form, and those rules only applied to characters the plot needed back, while everyone else stayed dead permanently. Mortal Kombat 9. Chapter 14 featured Sindel's massacre at the Earthrealm base. She killed Kitana, Jade, Kabal, Stryker, Nightwolf, Jax, Smoke, Sub-Zero, and Kung Lao in rapid succession. Quan Chi collected their souls and resurrected them as Revenants serving NetherRealm. By the end of MKI-9, nearly every Earthrealm champion existed as an undead thrall with gray skin, glowing eyes, and complete loyalty to Quan Chi. Liu Kang joined them after Raiden accidentally killed him. The Revenant army was complete, but then Mortal Kombat X randomly restored 3 of them. Raiden traveled to the Jinsei Chamber to prevent Shinnok from corrupting Earthrealm's life force. Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, and Kenshi accompanied him. Shinnok began transforming Johnny into a Revenant right there in the chamber. Raiden released a massive burst of purifying energy to save Johnny. That energy accidentally restored Jax, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion to human form at the same time. The game explains they were simply there at the moment. Wrong place, right time. Pure coincidence. Here's what NetherRealm never explained. Liu Kang, Kitana, Kung Lao, Jade, Nightwolf, Stryker, Kabal, and Smoke remained Revenants permanently. Raiden made 0 attempts to gather them in the Jinsei Chamber for the same accidental cure. No character even suggested trying. The method that saved 4 fighters was immediately forgotten the moment it became inconvenient to the story. The MKX comics created another contradiction about Sub-Zero specifically. Quan Chi supposedly couldn't properly control Cyber Sub-Zero due to his cybernetic parts interfering with necromancy. So Quan Chi destroyed the cyborg body and reformed it as original flesh and blood before making him a revenant. But Mortal Kombat 9's story mode shows Quan Chi controlling Cyber Sub-Zero perfectly fine during multiple scenes. The cybernetics only became a problem when the writers needed to explain why Kuai Liang looked human again. Raiden's purification energy raises more questions. If Jinsi energy can restore revenants to human form, why didn't Raiden weaponize this? Why didn't he bring all the revenants to the Sky Temple and blast them with purification? The comics show Raiden successfully using Jinsi energy as a weapon multiple times. He knows it works. He simply never tried it again. The restoration appears completely random. Jax was standing near Johnny during the Shinnok fight, so he got cured. Scorpion was there seeking revenge on Quan Chi, so he got cured. Sub-Zero happened to be present commanding Revenant forces, so he got cured. Meanwhile, Liu Kang and Kitana led entire Revenant armies throughout MKX and MK11 without anyone attempting the same solution. The method only works when NetherRealm wants specific characters back. But if selective resurrection rules seem arbitrary, wait until you discover the character whose transformation into a Wraith operated under 3 completely different mechanisms across 3 timelines. Noob Saibot. Bihan's transformation into Noob Saibot has a clear origin story, and NetherRealm changed that origin 3 separate times across 3 different timelines without acknowledging the previous versions. The original timeline established Bihan as the Elder Sub-Zero who dies during or shortly after the first Mortal Kombat tournament. Scorpion kills him seeking revenge for the Shirai Ryu massacre. Bihan's soul descends to the NetherRealm because it was tainted with evil from years of Lin Kuei assassinations. The hellish energies of NetherRealm corrupt his already dark soul, transforming him into the Wraith Noob Saibot. Natural consequence of a corrupted soul encountering demonic power. No resurrection required. No outside interference. Just spiritual corruption through environmental exposure. But then Mortal Kombat 9 made it necromancy. The 2011 timeline reset changed Bihan's death timing to Chapter 3, before Liu Kang even defeats Goro. Scorpion still kills him seeking vengeance, but now the transformation isn't natural corruption. The game describes Bihan as resurrected off-screen by Quan Chi and Shao Kahn working together. They deliberately brought him back as a Shadow Wraith to serve NetherRealm's forces. The corruption became a manufactured process instead of spiritual decay. The location shifted too. The original timeline placed Bihan's death sometime after Goro and Shang Tsung's defeats, at the gates of Shang Tsung's island. Mortal Kombat 9 moved the fight to the NetherRealm arena itself before the tournament properly concluded. Different location, different timing, different mechanisms, same character, same transformation, completely different explanation. Then Mortal Kombat 1 in 2023 changed everything again with Chaos Reigns DLC. Titan Havoc captures Bihan after he becomes corrupted, serving as Sub-Zero. Not Quan Chi, not natural corruption, not Shao Kahn's necromancy. Havoc tortures Bihan to death, then uses chaos magic to resurrect him as Noob Saibot. The shadow powers come from chaotic energy instead of NetherRealm corruption. His obsession shifts from serving death to spreading anarchy. Even his master changed from Quan Chi to Havoc. 3 timelines, 3 completely different creators, 3 separate mechanisms producing the same Wraith. The original timeline blamed environmental corruption. The new timeline credited Quan Chi's necromancy. Liu Kang's timeline gave credit to Havoc's chaos magic. NetherRealm treats each version as definitive without acknowledging the previous explanations ever existed. The franchise can't even maintain consistency about who transforms him. Elder Sub-Zero becomes Noob Saibot in every timeline, but the how and why changes completely each time. But if one character's origin changing 3 times seems excessive, wait until you learn about the artifact whose powers were so inconsistent it became 7 different objects simultaneously. The Amulet. The Amulet of Shinnok has a documented creator and purpose. And 11 years after its introduction, the franchise revealed it was actually created by completely different beings for an entirely different reason. Mortal Kombat mythologies. Sub-Zero in 1997 established the amulet's origin clearly. Shinnok created it personally after the Elder Gods banished him to the NetherRealm. The amulet allowed him to travel between realms undetected and prevented Elder God intervention in his schemes. Bihan stole it from the Temple of Elements on Quan Chi's orders. Raiden imprisoned Shinnok in the Netherrealm again, and placed the amulet back in the temple for safekeeping. Straightforward artifact with known creator and specific function. But then, Mortal Kombat Deception changed who made it. The 2004 game revealed the amulet of Shinnok is actually the 7th Kamidogu. Argus explicitly identifies it as such in Quan Chi's Armageddon ending, calling Shinnok's amulet a Kamidogu, and stating it completes the set when combined with the other 6 realm daggers. But the Kamidogu were supposedly created by the Elder Gods at the dawn of time when they shattered the One Being into separate realms. How can Shinnok create an artifact that predates his existence by eons? The timeline makes this mathematically impossible. The One Being's defeat and the Kamidogu's creation happened at the absolute beginning of reality. Shinnok's rebellion against the Elder Gods occurred millions of years later. If the amulet is truly a Kamidogu, then Shinnok didn't create it at all. He somehow acquired one of the universe's oldest artifacts, and everyone just forgot the Elder Gods made it first. Here's what breaks the established lore. Mortal Kombat mythologies explicitly shows Shinnok crafting the amulet with his own power as a fallen Elder God. The game treats it as his personal creation, not an ancient relic he found. But Deception and Armageddon treat it as part of the Kamidogu set that existed before Shinnok fell. Both versions can't be true simultaneously. The amulet's powers change drastically between every appearance. Mythologies gives it realm hopping and Elder God evasion abilities. Mortal Kombat 4 uses it for general power amplification with no reality warping. Deadly Alliance has it open portals to heavens and control Onaga's mummified army, powers never mentioned before. The MKX comic shows it supercharging with absorbed souls and sealing beings in other dimensions. MKX Story Mode has it corrupt the Jinsei Chamber and transform Shinnok into his corrupted form. Mortal Kombat 11 reduces it to a basic power source for Dark Raiden. These aren't different applications of the same ability. These are completely different power sets that share nothing in common except the object's name. The fake amulet subplot creates another impossibility. Quan Chi secretly swapped the real amulet during mythologies, keeping the original while Raiden locked a fake in the Temple of Elements. But if Raiden had a fake amulet protecting the temple for 4 years, how did the temple's defenses function? How did Shinnok nearly conquer Earthrealm in Mortal Kombat 4 using what should have been a powerless replica? Netherrealm never explained whether the fake had powers or not. If it did, then Quan Chi's swap was pointless. If it didn't, then the temple's magical protections ran on nothing for years. But at least the amulet exists in some form across all timelines, unlike the fully developed character, who was completely erased from the game 5 weeks before release, Ash Williams. Mortal Kombat 11 featured 3 Combat Pack guest characters at launch, and data miners discovered a 4th fighter was fully developed, voice-acted, and ready for release before NetherRealm deleted him from existence. The evidence started appearing in April 2019, immediately after MK11's launch. Nintendo Switch data miners discovered complete character data labeled ASH in the game files, not placeholder files, not concept art references, fully implemented character code with movesets, animations, and combat properties. Voice lines recorded with actors referencing Ash directly in dialogue. Richard Epcar, who voices both Raiden and the Joker in MK11, publicly confirmed Ash Williams was real, and he recorded interactions with the character. But then every trace of Ash disappeared from the game. An official Mortal Kombat 11 marketing email sent to players contained legal disclaimers mentioning Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, the films where Ash Williams appears. The email went out before any official announcement. Players documented this immediately. NetherRealm never addressed it. The Shang Tsung reveal trailer in May 2019 featured a distinct chainsaw sound effect during his shape-shifting showcase. That sound didn't match any announced fighter. The community identified it as Ash's signature weapon. Bruce Campbell himself confirmed the situation in multiple interviews. The actor who plays Ash stated characters are owned by companies, including Ash, and it gets weird sometimes with licensing. He explicitly said the crossover might not happen because of legal crap, not because NetherRealm didn't want Ash, not because the character didn't fit, because the lawyers couldn't make it work. Here's what makes this deletion so blatant. The Joker was announced as the Combat Pack 1 final character in August 2019, a Warner Bros.-owned property requiring 0 external licensing negotiations. The Joker replaced Ash in the exact DLC slot data miners found Ash occupying in the files. After the Joker's announcement, every Ash reference was systematically removed from the game code in subsequent patches. NetherRealm spent months developing Ash Williams with full voice acting, complete movesets, and marketing materials prepared for announcement. Then, licensing complications killed the entire character, and they pretended he never existed. No official statement, no acknowledgement, just silent deletion and replacement. If you enjoyed this video and want to see Mortal Kombat's deadliest characters explained, click the video on screen now.